The Cardiff Devils were in Sheffield for Challenge Cup action. That meant Matthew Myers' first visit to the building wearing the red and white. Wearing the black, Jason Hewitt and the Sheffield Steelers. And new signing Ilpo Salmaverta. Well, some of the fans were ready and raring to go for this one, and that meant, of course, the return to the Cardiff Devils lineup of Dan LaCosta. His third return of the season. He's had injury problems. Interesting first period. Keep your eye on 61 Blight and 17 Hewitt. A little battle on the boards. You'll see develop. Big slash from Blight, a return slash from Hewitt. These two get it together pretty early on. And Jason Hewitt and Chris Blight both would receive 5-minute majors for the fight that developed. It got the crowd going. It got both teams going. Big punches thrown from both players. An eventual tussle that ended up on the ice. As I say, in the first 3 minutes of the game and 5-minute penalties. Even first period, only goal was to come at 8 minutes and 14 seconds. Mark Richardson would be the scorer, goes near side on Frank Doyle. Devils led 1-0. Morissette and Phil Hill would pick up the assists. But a nice finish from Mark Richardson, and as I say, the only goal of the first period. The second period was an indisciplined period from the Sheffield Steelers. Not once but twice they gave 5-on-3 power plays to the Cardiff Devils. Fatter and Phillips were in the penalty box when Matt Faulkner just rifled one at 23:53 to make it 2-0 to Gerard Adams' side. An absolute bullet from Faulkner. The Cardiff Devils fans, well, they were in their element. They'd made the long trip up north and they could hardly believe their luck. 2-0 up at the House of Steel. They were to go 3-0 up, another 5-on-3 power play. This time, it was Thomas and Spencer in the penalty box. Faulkner was patient. And you'll see just a lovely finish from the marksman. He'll step inside in a moment. Takes his time. He has all the time in the world on the 5-on-3. And absolutely nothing Frank Doyle can do about that one. 3-0 at 33:03. Andrew Lord picking up an assist. You'll see there in the super slow-mo, absolutely nothing any goalie could do about that one. 3-0. The Sheffield Steelers depleted, of course. No Langley, no Cohn, no Danny Myers, no Lacroix. And the Sheffield Steelers were struggling. Just over a minute to go before the end of the period. And when things don't go for you, they don't go for you. Have a look at this for a fortuitous goal. Chris Blight, and it gets rebounded off the skate of Tim Spencer. Nothing Frank Doyle can do about it. And with just a minute and a second to go in the middle period, the Sheffield Steelers trailed by 4. A fluke goal, but when things are going against you, well, things are going against you. Most teams would have just folded, pitched the tent up, threw the sticks into the middle of the ice. Not the Sheffield Steelers, though. Delayed penalty. Smith for hooking. Look at Michael Hicks. He's got his hand in the air. Sheffield have the extra attacker on, and the Sheffield Steelers keep up possession. Keep an eye on Mark Thomas, who does great work in feeding Robert Dowd. And Robert Dowd on a one-time blast. Well, get some momentum going back in the building again. 43-16 on the delayed penalty. Dowd, Thomas, and Stephen Meyer make it 4-1. Again, great work from Thomas, playing his 500th game for the Steelers tonight. And a bullet. Look at this. No deflection. Look at the whip on that stick. It just finds its way through. And what a great job screening Salmaverta did. You could see what it meant to Robert Dowd. And the Sheffield Steelers were back in this one. Something at last for the fans to cheer about. And Sheffield came pushing in the third period and thoroughly deserved a second goal. Baldwin was the eventual scorer. And the big defenceman with quick hands, you'll see here, just first to the loose puck. He chips it over DaCosta, and Baldwin makes it 4-2. Salmaverta picking up his third point of the weekend, his first of the night, and Robert Dowd his second point of that period. But again, great work from Baldwin, wanted it more than anybody else, got to the loose puck first, hands in the air, Baldwin shoots and scores. The Steelers back in this one. Doug Christiansen pulls the goalie, Sheffield, with the extra attacker on, and there's a minute and a half left. Look at the scramble, look at who wants it the most. Stefan Meyer wants it the most, and at 58-34, Meyer pulls it back to just a one-goal game. Salmaverta and Dowd again picking up the assists, but Steelers' top scorer, Stefan Meyer, shoots and scores. It's 4-3 in favour of the Devils, and, well, the Steelers fans believed. Just 10 seconds to go. Face-off right in front of DeCosta. A scramble, a block shot. But the clock is ticking down. Maybe if a few more seconds would have been there, maybe Baldwin would have scored. But he didn't score. And it was a final score of the Sheffield Steelers 3. The Cardiff Devils 4. A split weekend with the Steelers beating the Devils in Cardiff, and Cardiff returning that favour to the Sheffield Steelers 24 hours later. Well, let's hear what coach Doug Christiansen had to say after that game. He spoke in the press room. Doug, if we'd have done this interview at the end of the second period, it might have been a very different interview, but your team showed great character in the final 20 minutes there.
There's character, but we need to be a team that plays for 60 minutes. Last weekend was a night where we didn't really have it, and we came back and we drove. We did as best as we possibly could. Tonight, you look at our second period, it was extremely disappointing. But with the part that was disappointing for me wasn't so much the fact that we were down 4-0. Last night we were up 4-0. There isn't that disparity between the two teams. But tonight, we allowed ourselves to get into 5-on-3s just like we did last night, and we take another 10-minute misconduct, and that kills you. And when you're playing short the way that we are, over the course of 2 nights, it's going to be evident, and it was evident in the second period. I thought we did a great job pushing back in the third. We showed some character, we showed some jam, but when you are short, you can't just say, well, we're going to reschedule the game. You have to make the adjustments, and you have to adapt, and you have to make consistent good decisions, and I don't think we did that to the best of our ability tonight or last night. And both of those situations, one night we're up 4-0, one the other night we're down 4-0. But overall, that's something that we need to address and to improve.
Is it almost more of a concern that having played so well last night and put such a great performance in, that we can't do them back-to-back? It seems to be this one win, one loss. Is that something that we shouldn't be concerned about, or is it a concern to you?
I think the part that's more concerning is the discipline. I think that that's something that we have to address, because that, over the course of the year, is going to bite you. Whether it's a guy taking a 5-minute spearing, or a guy taking an 8-game suspension, two-handing the glass, as some people here might remember from a few years ago. You have to cut those out, because that hurts you. You can't allow negative moments in games to spiral you in the wrong direction. And so for me, am I disappointed that we lost tonight? Absolutely 100%. Am I disappointed that we didn't play 120 minutes this weekend? Absolutely 100%. But the area of concern for me is the area that we have to address, which is that team discipline. Because when you're going into a game with 9-4, you know that you're going to have to play your absolute best. You know that you're going against a team that's got 11 forwards and 60 that are going to be more well-rested, that they didn't travel twice, all those different variables. But you have to adapt, and you have to make better decisions as a hockey club, and that starts with all of us. That starts with me impressing upon the players how vital that is. It comes down to leaders impressing upon the players, maybe calming a guy down, but you cannot put yourself in that position, because over the course of 52 games, that will bite you, and it bit us tonight.
Talk to us a little bit about the injury situation and when you expect a few guys back, because you desperately need some bodies, don't you?
Cohn won't play next week. Langley's 50-50. Danny Myers won't play next week. Woolhouse won't play next week. Lacroix isn't going to play in 2013. So, you know what? We're short, but that's not an excuse. We have to adapt, and we have to make sure that we become a smarter team. I use the analogy of boxers having to get their weight down to their fighting weight. Well, we're at about our fighting weight right now, and you know what? For us as a team, there are positives. There are things that we can take away from this, but last night when we won a Challenge Cup game, tonight we lost a Challenge Cup game. What's important is that in 10 days, 11 days, when we start those league campaign games, that we aren't making the mistakes that we are right now. But I will say that I think our defense has improved, our goaltending has improved. Some of our best players are becoming our best players. You look at the improvement of Robert Dowd from a couple weeks ago to now. He's obviously outstanding. So there are things that we can improve or that we can take from this. But we need to make sure that we eliminate some of those mental mistakes, because this weekend it was evident that it hurt us.
You talk about the emotion. A fan said to me when I was selling tickets at the end of the second period, I'd have paid the suspension if Doug had taken 6 games for his little outburst down there. What was it that got you so riled? Because the fans certainly felt it with you, and it lifted the building because they could see that somebody cared and there was some passion there. What was that about?
Well, as I said to Bob Westerdale, I said that this is a cerebral job, but I'm very passionate about what I do. I love what I do. And so you can't always be jumping up and down with the players and getting into the emotional side of it. But you know what? Tonight, Drew Fata comes into the slot, puck's on his stick, great moment in the game for him to come up with a big goal, back-to-back nights for him, and he gets hauled down. And then there's no penalty. Drew comes back, goes the length of the ice, takes a penalty. Well, Drew obviously needs to not take that penalty, but I understand his frustration, and I can see why that, he works so hard to get to the slot. He basically does everything that he possibly can to score a goal, and why would you ever dive in the slot? You wouldn't. And then he takes a penalty, then we wind up on the 5-on-3 and the puck's in the back of the net. And I was frustrated for our players, I was disappointed, and I fortunately had an ability to say a couple things to Hixie.